Hey everybody, welcome to another tutorial lesson. In this one, we're going to make an organic shape. So let's jump right in, no delays, right? So Shift A, let's go ahead and drop in a UV sphere. And as it stands, you can move this above the grid, or you can leave the cross lines through it. Just to make it look a little better, I'm going to move my segments on up to 64. That's good enough. And for now, I'm going to shade it smooth. I'm going to press G and Z to kind of move it up above the grid a little bit, and I'll hit 1 on the number pad. And if you're using a laptop, just go to Edit, go to Preferences. You can go into Input, click Emulate Number Pad, and either save it or your autosave is on. You're good. Just hit the X when you're done and jump back in. Now I'm going to jump into edit mode with this. Kind of zoom in on the bottom, and what I want to do, and I realized I didn't say what I was going to make yet, but we'll get there. So let's just select all these faces, hit X, and delete those faces. Now you can press 2, or you can jump up here and get an edge select. Now be careful not to select any other edges, and let's select this edge loop right here. And what I want you to do is hit your space bar for search, type in grid fill, and then go ahead and click enter on that. Now let's jump over into vertex mode. Now what we want to do is kind of reposition this a little bit. Now what I want to do is I hit 7, and 7 takes me to the top, right? So I want to hit Control 7, and it'll take me directly to the bottom, and the 3D cursor just happens to be on the one vertex I need, which pretty much should be dead center. So I'll go ahead and hit 1. That's still selected. I'll hit O for proportional editing, make sure that's on, and I'll hit G, and then I'll tap Z to make sure it's on that axis. Now I'm going to roll the mouse wheel in just a little bit. Let's see, something like that. Just get this shape. If you haven't guessed already, we're making a light bulb. So I'll bring this down to about right there. That's pretty good. Now what I will do is I'll go in here and add a few loop cuts. So 1, 2, 3, probably 4 should be good enough, and kind of place them anywhere in the middle. Now make sure I'm on edge select, and I'll go ahead and select those 4. Not that one. There we go. Now I'll scale these in. And I think I'm going to have to turn proportional editing off for this one. So I'll just tap O. Still not really doing what I want. Alright, so I'll just do a little manual work here. It's always good to learn a little extra stuff anyway. So with this top vertex selected, and in fact I'll just move up one. And I'll just hit Control B and add a little bevel to that. And then I'll scale that bevel in just a little bit, give it a little bit of definition. Now let's see, I think we can just go ahead and select these 4 now, hit Control B, bevel them all at one time, and now you can see they've already got the cuts in them that we want. So I'll add 2 cuts per. And now what I can do, timeline turn off, is I can just select these 2, and let's just scale these in, and I'll jump back out. That looks really nice. So a little manual work, doesn't take too long. So now I'll select the rest of these. And yeah, I guess I'll have to make you sit through it this time. I know some of this work can be tedious. So with all those selected, and I'll just hit S and scale those in a little bit as well. And now if I back out, I've kind of got the makings of a light bulb, but this piece looks a little too big down here. And it doesn't look like it really wants a loop cut added, but let's see what we can do. So right here I've added one, and I'll just hit Control B on this. Let me back out of that. No, I didn't bevel that. Okay, good. So with this one selected, I'll just do a Control B and put 1 cut in the middle. I'll select the 1 cut, and I'll scale that one in just a little bit. There we go. That's not too bad. So from here, what we can do is a couple different paths you can take to make this look good. So we'll just jump over into the rendered view, and I'm just going to go ahead and move this up above the grid a little bit on the Z-axis. So I'm going to drop in a plane, scale it up, and make this real simple. I'm going to scale it a little bit more, Shift D, and now I've got this second plane here. I know you can't see much, but I'll just right click and drop it, hit G and Z and bring it up just a little bit. Come over to the material tab, click new, and from here under principal BSDF, I'll click emission.
Yes!
And so now we've got pretty nice even lighting going on. Now what I want to do is I want to assign a glass material to this and a metallic material to this, but this one object. So how do you do that? Well, pretty easy. So what I'll do is I'll just select the entire thing. I'm going to come over here, and I'm already under materials tab, so I'm going to add a material, and then I'll add a second material and click new. So now I've got material 1 and material 2. So for the first one, I'll just type in glass and hit enter. And for the second one, I'll type in metal. Nice and easy. For the first one here, we'll remove principal BSDF, and we'll go up and we'll select a mix shader. Now under the mix shader, and there's obviously it went black because there's nothing there. For the first shader, we'll go ahead and choose glass, and now everything is effectively glass. We'll choose a IOR index of refraction of a 0.9 to give it a nice level of transparency, but yet it'll kind of bend the light. And then on the second shader, we'll go for a transparent. Don't select translucent by accident. And now we can see through it. Pretty cool. Now the problem is the whole thing's glass, and that doesn't make too much sense. So what I'll do is I'll do my swipe over into Z mode, and Z mode is just wireframe. And when I say that, I'm hitting the Z on the keyboard and just swiping the mouse without doing anything. And I can go rendered material wireframe. So I'm choosing in this pie menu, and you see a little blue thing here. Wherever it's pointing is where it's going to go. So if I just swipe to one side after hitting Z or top or bottom, I'll choose what I want. And you can do the same. So I'll stay in wireframe, hit 1, hold down shift, take the left mouse, select everything, and it looks like I'm not on face mode, so I got to fix that. Now let's reselect. And now I've got everything here selected. Now what I'll do is come here to the metal. It's not a material yet, and I'll hit assign, and all this is being done in edit mode. So now let me go ahead and I'll hit Z, and where am I going to go? Rendered. So now I can jump out of that mode, and this canister, if you will, container, is now holding this material. So let's go change that. I'll bring it down to something like gray, and then I'll middle mouse wheel down, bring the metallic all the way up, bring the roughness down to about a 0.2, and hit enter. And let's see, what else do we want to do here? This looks pretty good. Might give it a slight color. Just not on the subsurface, we don't want to do that. So on the base color, let's see. Just for the front of it, we'll add a little yellow material. And now for the bottom, make sure I have 1, and I'm in Z mode. I'll select the entire bottom. If you kind of middle mouse wheel around a pan, it's just the perfect way of getting all of that kind of collected. So I'll zoom in so you can see better what I'm doing. Jump back into rendered since I've got all of that selected. And under the material tab, I'll just add another material. We'll call this one the bottom. And technically, when one of these light bulbs go in, there is a little metal selection down here, plus there's a selection here. So like this would be your ground, and this would be your positive if it was going in that way, just electrically speaking. So now what we can do is we can kind of separate this material. We'll make this brighter, and I will call this one completely metallic, no roughness, and I'll bring up the clear coat as well. And now I'm going to jump out of the other view here. But you see, guess what? It's the exact same color we started with because it wasn't assigned. So make sure that you assign that material, then you can tab back out, and now you see you've got a different color. This is technically like a little porcelain here, and I might just take it a step further. See, I jump over into this mode. Again, it's not really going to end up even at this point, so I'm going to leave that alone. And now what I want to do is I want to put something in here like some kind of filament, but I don't have anything made yet. So let's see, where's that cursor? 3D cursor is right there. Let's drop in a plane, rotate it on X. So you want to hit R, X, and then 90 for 90 degrees on the number pad. Let's scale it down just a little bit, G and Z, to kind of move that filament up. Now that's going to be right in the middle, right where we want it. Now hit the /, and what that's going to do, and we can jump back over into solid mode. That's going to allow you to, and if that's wireframe, it's going to be clear because obviously wireframe is just showing the frame, so you want to just go ahead and click solid up there. What you want to do is go into edit mode with this under the vertices, so we have our points selected here, and we can shape this thing up a little bit. So I'll hit 1, and that'll give me my front face. And what I want to do is hit Alt, W, and I'll go ahead and subdivide this a little bit so I can mess with it. And it looks like maybe one more subdivision should be more than enough. So I'll drag these, make sure O is on for proportional editing because I don't really want to mess this up. And I'm going to go ahead and scale this down just a touch. I'll drag these 2 points with G and Z down a little bit as well. And let's see if that works a little. There we go. So roll the mouse wheel in a little bit because what I was trying to do was move them in like that. And then I'll go ahead and scale those a little bit. It's starting to look kind of good. Alright, so with this shape, all I really want to do is select these faces right here. I hit X and delete those faces. And now I can just add another loop cut here. And I'll add one over here as well. And then one up top and give it some more structure. And now I'm going to take some more of that material out with face select. So just holding shift, just select the faces I don't want, hit X and delete those. So that's cool. Now, and this is obviously just one way of many to do this, I'll just add a quick modifier to this, jump back into edit mode, and I'll add a solidify, kind of bring it out a little bit, and you can just apply that to make it a mesh because it's not a mesh until you do. And now I'll subdivide this one time, and we'll bring the level up to 2. Starting to look like some kind of a filament. And I'll just go ahead and apply this because I'm not going to change it. I'll hit Q and shade it smooth, and looks like auto smooth would be nice as well. And just remember, if you don't have those in your Q menu, go ahead and get those in there by pressing spacebar and search. And then if you type in shade, you'll get shade smooth. You can just right click on it. Mine says remove, but yours will say add from quick favorites. If you don't have it, then you can hit Q and just grab those things. And then over here under the vertex select area under normals, you'll find auto smooth, and you can see the difference in shading. It does correct some issues in shading and can help you avoid the little nasty look of artifacts on your model. Now there's a number of different ways. Obviously you can make this look like a filament, but we're just going to do the simplest way, which is to go in and add another modifier. So this modifier is just going to be wireframe, and from here you can adjust the thickness to whatever you want. I'll go with something pretty thin, let's see, 0.7. Okay, that's the coolest shape I've ever seen. Not quite what I was looking for. Alright, let's try something different here. I'm not even going to take this out of the tutorial. It's too funny. So, 0.05. Let's go down 0.02. It looks like 0.01 might just be good enough. Yeah, it looks good. Now, I only want the top part to be selected, so I'm just going to jump back into edit mode, go to vertices. I'll go to wireframe, hit 1, and I want to select just the top portion, something like this. And I'm going to go back to the little green triangle, which is your vertex area, and under vertex groups, I'm going to click new. And what this is going to do is going to assign these vertex, obviously vertex groups, to a particular modifier, which is the one we just made. So what we want to do is just call this, we'll just call it fill for now, short for filament. And at this point you have to click assign or this vertex group doesn't know where to go, right? So you can go out here, clean this up. Let's go back into solid view. And now if we go back to the modifier and drop down under wireframe, the vertex group, there it is, there's fill, he's waiting for us. So now you've got the one filament there, and you'll have to bring back the rest of your model. And I'll just uncheck replace original, and then I can kind of bring this filament back in and out, and it kind of sits on the surface and effectively looks like I've got some open caps here. So let's go back to the 0.01, and now I've got some type of filament right here. Now I don't necessarily like those faces in there, so if you want this to be completely separated, in other words you don't want that there, then what you can do is you can just leave the entire thing open like a filament. And another option is to take this piece that we've assigned, hit your spacebar for search, and type in separate. Now we can separate by selection. I'll actually add that to my quick favorites. Come out, hit Q, and I'm going to separate this by selection. Now I've got to leave edit mode because I have two different objects in here. And if I tab out and just select this piece, now I can kind of modify this, and what I'll actually do is remove this modifier, and I'll just put a new wireframe on that piece, 0.01, and now I've got this neat little filament, and I left part of the vertex pieces on there, which worked out pretty nice. It looks good. So now if you hit your / and your Z to go back into rendered, now you've got your filament inside of your light bulb, and separating the selection is actually the better option anyways. So now you can come down to materials, add a new one. We'll just call this light. And now on the principal BSDF, you can add, you guessed it, an emission. So what we want to do with the emission is probably turn it up to something like 3. Let's test out some little higher brightness here. And we can make the color kind of yellow. Let's try 1000. See, that's really not that bright. Well, that's all right, because what we can do is with the cursor at world origin, we can just do what most people do in 3D modeling, which is fakery anyways, and it's all about the angle and the lighting. So Shift A, we can drop in a point light, press G and Z to kind of bring that up a little bit, and now from here you could increase that to whatever you want. I'll put this at 300, try 3000. There we go. Now we're giving off a little bit of extra light. And I don't have a base in there, so it looks kind of hollow and empty, so I'll do Shift A and I'll drop in a circle. Now what you have to do immediately is go into edit mode with this, unless you want to add more vertex with the drop down menu that comes up. And I'm just going to scale it down. Press G and Z to bring it up. And for this one, I can move into solid mode when I get it where I want it. And back to rendered now. I can hit, I know you're doing some of this blind, but when you get good at this, this would be a lot easier. And if you have trouble with that, you can just jump back into edit, select the bulb, and hit H to hide it. And that way you can see what you're doing once it's in place. So in edit mode with this circle, E for extrude, and then S to scale it. And you can kind of bring this in wherever you want it. Maybe like G and Z to kind of bring it down a little bit, and then hit F to fill it. And now Alt H will bring back everything that was hidden. And if for some reason that doesn't work, you can just come over here and click the eye and make sure that's on. And now with that plane under there, we're definitely pushing out a good bit more light. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to create a light bulb in Blender, and I will see you in the next lesson.